They didn't tell you the truth. They told you if you just kept your head down and worked harder than everyone else, you'd be rewarded. They told you to grind, to suffer in silence, to let your skills speak for themselves. They said if you became a master of your craft, the world would notice. That excellence would be enough. They lied, because they noticed, but they didn't care. You can become a ghost with gold in your mind and fire in your veins, and still be invisible. Why? Because in the real world, it's not the best who rise. It's the best connected. The ones who know how to navigate the terrain of people. The ones who know how to read a room. The ones who can turn a handshake into a contract. A conversation into currency. A name into a reputation. And if you don't know how to deal with people, you'll be ignored. Not because you're unworthy, but because you never learned how to translate your worth into influence. You'll be overlooked in the boardroom, passed over in the promotion, excluded from the table where the decisions get made. They won't care how hard you worked. They'll care how you made them feel. That's the brutal truth. You can be the sharpest blade in the arsenal, but if you're never drawn from the sheath, you'll rust. You'll rot. You'll waste away in obscurity while lesser men who mastered the game of influence rise above you. People are the gatekeepers of every opportunity, every job, every deal, every favor. Every break in this life is filtered through human hands. You can scream into the void all you want, but if no one hears you, if no one feels you, you're nothing but noise in the background. Even if you hate dealing with people, even if the thought of small talk makes your skin crawl, even if betrayal left a sour taste in your soul, you better get over it, fast. Because the truth is, you are always selling your energy, selling your intentions, selling the belief that you are worth listening to, that you are someone to follow, to trust, to bet on. Every interaction is a silent negotiation. Every glance is a mirror. Every word is a weapon or a weakness. You sell when you walk into a room. You sell when you speak. You sell when you choose to stay silent. You sell when you show up late or early or not at all. You're selling in your friendships. You're selling in your relationships. You're selling every damn time you look someone in the eye. And what are you selling? You. Your value, your standards, your vision, your story. And whether you realize it or not, people are buying or they're walking away. So if you don't learn how to play this game, if you don't learn how to deal with people, to understand them, to move them, to influence them, then you've already lost. Because the world doesn't reward the most talented. It rewards the most adaptable. And in a society built on perception, attention, and connection, influence is survival. So what now? You've seen the battlefield. You know the stakes. This isn't about being liked. It's about being heard, seen, and remembered. And if you want to rise in a world that trades in perception and human emotion, then you need to understand the first law of real influence. Because it doesn't start with power. It doesn't start with persuasion. It starts with understanding this. Law 1. People don't care about you until you care about them. This is the first law, and it hurts because it means all your pain, all your struggle, all your hard work doesn't matter. Not until someone sees themselves in you. The world doesn't owe you recognition. People don't owe you respect. They are not tuned into your broadcast because they're too busy listening to the chaos in their own heads. They're drowning in their own insecurities, haunted by their own failures, addicted to their own validation. And you think they have the bandwidth to care about your greatness? No, not unless you earn it. Not unless you open the door to their reality first. Because people only care about what touches them, emotionally, personally, deeply. You want to matter to someone? Make them feel like they matter first. That's how the door opens. That's how you go from invisible to unforgettable. You see, when you talk only about yourself, people disconnect. They start counting the seconds until you stop. But when you talk about them, when you ask real questions, when you take the time to notice what makes them unique, what keeps them up at night, what lights them up inside, they lean in. Because most people go through life unseen. And when someone finally looks at them, really looks at them, it's like a drug. They feel alive. They feel important. And they attach that feeling to you. That's how influence begins. Not with manipulation, but with genuine attention. The kind of attention most people starve for. Not fake flattery, not shallow compliments. Genuine interest. Can you look someone in the eyes and ask questions that matter? Can you find value in a person who doesn't even see it in themselves? If you can, you become rare. You become magnetic. You become unforgettable. And once you've opened that door, once you've made them feel heard, understood, respected, now they care what you have to say. Now they want to know who you are. Now they'll fight for you, follow you, and go to war for your vision. But skip this step? Talk only about yourself? Assume your value should be obvious? Then you'll be just another voice in the void. Lost, ignored, forgettable. This is the first law of power. Get over yourself and learn to care. Strategically, sincerely, and deeply about the people who stand between you and everything you want. Not because you're weak, but because you're smart. Because you understand one hard truth. The fastest way to influence someone's life is to care about it. Law 2. Agreement is power. Let's kill the myth right now. You think winning arguments makes you powerful? No. Winning arguments makes you alone. Every time you argue to prove you're right, you're digging a grave. For trust, for connection, for opportunity. And what's in it for you? You get to feel superior for a moment. While the door silently closes in your face, you might win the battle. But you just lost the war. You see, in the world of influence, power isn't about being right. It's about being aligned. It's about connection, resonance, emotional flow. You want influence? Then learn this cold truth. Agreement isn't submission. It's leverage. Because when someone agrees with you, even just a little, they let their guard down. They feel heard. They feel safe. And that's when their mind opens. You cannot influence a closed mind. You cannot persuade a defensive heart. So stop arguing. Stop correcting. Stop trying to dominate the conversation with facts and logic like it's a courtroom. This is not about truth. This is about rapport. You don't need to shove your opinion down someone's throat to get them to change it. What you need is to make them feel understood, even when they're wrong, especially when they're wrong. Because when you validate someone's feelings, not their facts, but their feelings, you give them a gift they rarely get. You say, I see where you're coming from. I get why you feel that way. That makes sense to me. You didn't agree with the conclusion, but you honored the path they walked. And now, they're listening. Now, they trust you. Now they'll follow you. Because you didn't make them feel small, stupid, or defeated. People will abandon logic to defend their ego. So feed the ego, gently, strategically, and then guide the mind where you want it to go. That's what real leaders do. They don't force change, they inspire it. It's judo, not boxing. It's finesse, not brute force. And once you master the ability to agree without surrendering, you become unstoppable. Because now, you're not just someone with ideas. You're someone they want to listen to. You're someone they feel aligned with. And when people feel aligned with you, they buy from you. They vote for you. They fight for you. They follow you. Not because you're right, but because you made them feel like they were. That's the dark truth of influence. It's not about truth. It's about emotion. And emotion flows through the path of least resistance. Agreement is that path. So if you want power in this world, stop arguing, start aligning, and guide their mind like a master while they believe they're guiding themselves. That's influence. That's control. That's law number 2. Law 3. Their name is the gateway to their soul. You want to know the fastest way to own someone's attention? Say their name. Not bro, not man, not some recycled label you slap on everyone to sound familiar. Their real name, spoken with intention, with precision, with respect. Why? Because a person's name is more than just a word. It's an identity, a story, a lifelong echo that formed in childhood and followed them into adulthood. It's the sound that shaped their sense of self, the sound they heard when they were praised and when they were punished. It's the signature burned into their subconscious over decades of moments that defined who they are. And when you say it, correctly, confidently, deliberately, you trigger something primal inside them. It's not logical. It's not rational. It's instinctive. You're saying, I see you. I recognize you. You exist. And in a world full of noise, distraction, and indifference, that's power. Because here's the truth. Most people feel invisible. They walk through life unnoticed, unacknowledged, and unimportant. They blend into crowds. They do what's expected. They survive in silence. So when someone stops and addresses them by name, it disrupts the numbness. It jolts them awake. They stop scrolling. They stop wandering. They start feeling. And that feeling belongs to you now. You've created an emotional imprint. And once someone feels seen by you, they open up. They listen. They trust. That's the gateway to influence. Not power moves. Not dominance. Recognition. And don't get it twisted. This isn't some manipulative sales tactic. It's a psychological truth. People remember the ones who remember them. Not just their face. Not just their story. But their name. Want to win someone over in a single sentence? Say their name and say something true about them. Something they didn't think you noticed. Not to flatter, but to honor. You're not just speaking to their ears. You're speaking to their soul. Because when you take the time to remember someone's name, what you're really saying is, you matter enough for me to remember. And that cuts through walls, that bypasses ego, that breaks down resistance. You want to rise in business, in life, in leadership? Start by mastering the smallest detail everyone else ignores. Because the most dangerous men in the room, they remember names, and they use them like keys, unlocking influence, respect, and loyalty in places where others only see strangers. So take this law seriously. Learn names, speak them clearly, etch them into memory, Because the name is not just what they answer to, it's who they believe they are. And if you can reach that, you've already won. Law 4. Listening is a weapon. You think words are your power, then you're still asleep. Because it's not the man who speaks the most who holds the room. It's the one who listens, the one who hears what no one else hears, the one who watches what no one else sees, the one who extracts truth while everyone else is still trying to impress. Understand this. In the war of influence, silence isn't weakness. Silence is strategy. While others trip over their own words, trying to be liked, trying to be seen, trying to matter, the true tactician says nothing and learns everything. Because most people talk just to fill the void. They don't want to understand. They want to be understood. They don't listen. They wait for their turn to speak. And that's where you strike. That's where the power is. You listen deeply. You listen not just for the words, but for the insecurity behind the words, the doubt behind the smile, the motive behind the praise, the pattern behind the performance. And once you've gathered enough intel, now you own the battlefield. Because you understand what they're really saying, and more importantly, what they're not saying. Listening gives you leverage. It gives you foresight. It gives you control. It tells you who's lying, who's pretending, who's weak, who's desperate, who can be broken, and who cannot. And when you respond, not emotionally, not reactively, but with calm precision, you cut deeper than any loud voice in the room ever could. Because your words come from understanding, not ego. And that makes you rare. That makes you dangerous. Most people are addicted to their own voice. They talk to prove they're alive. They talk because silence scares them. But you turn silence into surveillance. You gather data like a sniper waiting for the perfect shot. You let others expose themselves while you remain still, composed, alert. Listening is not passive. It is the most active form of dominance. Because the more someone talks, the more they reveal. And the more they reveal, the easier they are to move, to guide, to manipulate, or to destroy. And that's not evil. That's not wrong. That's power. Because when you know someone, you can shape the entire outcome before they even realize what's happening. So develop this skill. Hone it like a blade. When others speak, listen with intent. Listen with hunger. Listen like every word could be used later, because it can. And when you finally do speak, make every word count, because your silence has been building pressure the entire time. And when it breaks, it shifts the room. That's how warriors speak. That's how kings lead. That's how legends move nations. Not with noise, but with the precision of a weaponized mind. So listen, always. Because in the war of influence, the one who listens owns the truth, and the one who owns the truth wins. Law 5. Give them a reputation to live up to. People say they want to change, but most don't. They beg for transformation, yet cling to the chains of who they used to be. Because it's familiar, because it's safe, because it's easy. You want to know why most people stay mediocre? Because no one ever held up a mirror that reflected who they could become, only who they were. They've been labeled their entire lives: lazy, difficult, average, broken. And those words stuck. They became cages, identities, prophecies. And now they live down to the low expectations the world gave them. But here's the dark truth most never realize. You can reverse the curse. Because human beings are addicted to identity. If you give someone a new story, one they want to believe, one they're afraid to lose, they will rise to protect it. You want to inspire change in someone? Don't threaten them. Don't criticize them. Don't shame them. Give them a reputation to live up to. Tell the coward they are brave. Tell the liar they are honest. Tell the failure they are rising. Tell the unreliable they are solid as stone. Not because they are yet, but because that new identity is now on the line. People will fight harder to maintain an identity than they will to chase a goal. Why? Because identity is personal. Identity is emotional. Identity is the core of how they see themselves and how they believe the world sees them. You say to someone, "You've always been the one who shows up under pressure." Even if they haven't. Now they want to. Now they need to. Because to betray that reputation is to betray themselves. And that fear is power. It's not manipulation, it's inspiration. It's drawing out the highest version of someone and making them wear it like armor. You turn potential into expectation, and expectation into obligation, and obligation into performance. Because nobody wants to be called a fraud. So when you place a crown on their head, they'll walk straighter to prove it belongs there. And this doesn't just work on others, it works on you. Speak of yourself like the warrior you were meant to be. Say it, own it, breathe it. Even before the world sees it, you must see it. Because the moment you believe the new reputation, everything changes. Your standards rise, your choices align, and you begin walking like the version of you you swore you'd become. So whether you're leading others or leading yourself, remember this law. Assign greatness and watch it come alive. Because most people don't need more motivation. They need someone to look them in the eyes and say, "You're better than this, and I see it, even if you don't yet." And once that seed is planted, they'll do everything they can, not to prove you wrong, but to prove you right. Law 6. Let them win. So you can lead. Power is not what you think it is. It's not about crushing every opponent. It's not about dominating every conversation. It's not about being the loudest voice in the room or the sharpest mind at the table. That's insecurity dressed up as confidence. True power knows when to step back, to step forward. You want to lead? Then learn this. Sometimes, the most strategic move you can make is to let them win. Not because they deserve it, not because you're weak, but because you're calculating. You see, everyone's addicted to feeling important. Everyone's chasing that hit of validation, of significance, of control. And when you let them have it, on your terms, you become the one pulling the strings. You let them win the little battles, while you're positioning for the war. That's how kings are made. You give up the spotlight so you can build the stage. You give them the glory, so you gain their loyalty. You let their ego rise, while your influence expands. Because here's what no one tells you. People follow those who make them feel powerful. Not the tyrants, not the know-it-alls. They follow the ones who see their value and amplify it. You make someone feel smart in your presence, they'll keep coming back. You make someone feel heard, they'll begin to trust you. You make someone feel right, even when they're wrong, and they'll fight for you like you gave them oxygen. That's not manipulation, that's leadership. Because leadership isn't about showing you're better. It's about bringing out the best in others, even when they don't see it in themselves. But here's the twist. You're not doing this for their comfort. You're doing this for control. You don't give away wins randomly. You give them away strategically. You choose when to stay silent. You choose when to let them believe it was their idea. You choose when to applaud and when to plant the seed of direction underneath that applause. Because when people feel like they're winning around you, they drop their guard, they open their minds, and now you can lead them without resistance. You're not barking orders. You're whispering wisdom. You're not shoving change down their throat. You're feeding it to them in bites they choose to swallow. That's how revolutions are led. Not with brute force, but with invisible influence. So let them win the small games. Let them speak first. Let them have the credit, as long as you own the outcome. Because when you give others the illusion of control, you're the one who truly has it. Remember, the ego is predictable, and predictable things can be guided. The most dangerous men in history didn't scream. They smiled. They nodded. They applauded others, while building an empire behind their backs. So if you want to lead, if you want to rise, then master the subtle game of power. Let them win, so you can own the board. Law 7. Influence is the shadow of character. You can fake a smile. You can mimic charm. You can memorize tactics from books, repeat scripts, and copy the moves of masters. But eventually, they see you. Everyone's mask slips with time. And when it does, what's left underneath? That's what determines whether your influence fades or becomes eternal. Because true influence isn't built in the moment. It's built in the dark, behind closed doors, when no one is watching. It's built when you choose to do what's right, even when it would be easier to lie. It's built when you say no to shortcuts and yes to standards. It's built when you show restraint, not because you're afraid to strike, but because you know you could. That's character. And character is the foundation that everything else stands on. The world is overflowing with manipulators, with smooth talkers, with polished pretenders. They rise fast, but they fall hard. Because when pressure hits, when chaos comes, who you are leaks out. And if there's no weight in your words, no spine in your soul, no truth in your walk, then no one will follow you. Not really. Not for long. Because influence, true influence, isn't built on persuasion. It's built on trust. And trust doesn't come from what you say. It comes from what you consistently do. It comes from how you show up when things go sideways. It comes from how you treat the ones with nothing to offer you. It comes from whether your actions echo louder than your voice. You want people to follow you? Then be the one they can count on when everything is crumbling. Be the one who doesn't fold, doesn't flinch, doesn't sell out. Be the one who holds the line. Because that kind of consistency is terrifyingly rare. And in a world full of frauds, consistency is magnetic. Your power grows when your name becomes synonymous with strength, with integrity, with discipline, with clarity. That's when people start using your name in rooms you've never entered. That's when opportunities find you without you chasing them. That's when influence stops being something you try to have and becomes something you are. It's not about being perfect. It's about being solid, unshakable, predictable in your principles, and unpredictable in your potential. That's what builds legacy. That's what shapes movements. That's what separates the men who are remembered from the ones who are replaced. So forget trying to impress. Forget trying to be liked. Forget the gimmicks. Build yourself into someone who commands respect, even in silence. Because when your character is carved in stone, your shadow moves through the world long after you're gone. And that shadow, that's influence. So now you know. Influence isn't about being loud. It's not about being flashy. It's not about performing for applause or begging for attention. It's about precision. It's about power. It's about people. Because no matter how skilled you are, no matter how deep your knowledge runs, no matter how pure your intentions may be, you will always need people to open the doors. And if you don't understand that, if you ignore these laws, you'll die with your potential locked inside you. A silent genius, a forgotten warrior, a master without a kingdom. But that doesn't have to be your fate. You've seen the terrain now. You've seen how the world really works. People don't care about you until you show them you care first. Agreement isn't surrender, it's strategy. A name isn't just a sound, it's a soul. Listening isn't passive, it's your most lethal weapon. People rise to the reputation you assign them. Real leadership isn't dominance. It's making others feel powerful. And the only kind of influence that survives the storm is the shadow cast by character. These aren't tricks. These are laws. You don't bend them. You master them. Because in a world where everyone's screaming to be seen, you will move in silence. You will command attention without begging for it. You will shape rooms, shift minds, and lead without forcing your crown. Not through manipulation, through mastery. Because when you know how to move people, when you know how to reach into their soul, speak their language, and pull them toward your vision, you don't chase opportunities. You become the source of them. So let the others keep grinding in the dark, hoping someone notices. You'll move through the world like a storm, calculated, unshakable, relentless. Because now, you know what they never taught you. Success is not just about work. It's about who you become and how you move the people around you. So master the laws, master yourself, and watch the world bend to your presence.